Wrong. A fictional tale by Lucien Maier. Prelude and warning. I have debated many years about writing this story. We moved to America, to Utah, in the 1970s. The LDS culture was not very welcoming of European atheists. Being unwilling to join the church caused me to be left largely in a life of solitude and outright criticism. It also led me to study their religion, along with many, many others. Being an author and a storyteller, I had a keen interest in these stories for their power. I started seeing the patterns years ago, and I have watched cults and religions use these patterns to unleash their very human agenda over and over again. So please, let this serve as a warning. Although the story that follows is fictional, I make no claims that I was talked to by a burning bush or given golden plates by God and then looked in a hat at some rocks to get divine words. These words are mine, merely a human that has no idea what happens after we pass. However, it will talk about how these stories were laid upon our world and how they control our race. This story is set up using the same method and standards they did in the original Bible that had become so mainstream. So, if you're one of my readers/friends that has a deep belief in your faith, I recommend you not reading wrong. For the best way to write a new religion is to dispel the old ones first. And the facts that I use to do that in this story are exactly that, facts. Set up as brainworms so they will rise time and time again. I worry about the impact on my friends who believe. I hope you will allow me to recommend Rumbleduck or my In the Blood vampire tale. And now, wrong. Chapter 1. Another Day on the Job. Lo and behold, the guide looked upon the four souls emerging from the darkness, each from different walks of life, and he knew that their journey to the end was nearing its end. The guide, being of cosmic wisdom and unyielding patience, sighed inwardly. Though it had felt like an eternity, it had only been a moment in the grand scheme of things. Soon this experiment would be over, and this guide could continue their journey on to better things in the universe. The guide saw the passage of spirits before them, the final path that all must traverse. As he floated towards it, he noticed the four souls entering the passage, and he fell in behind them. There was a Christian, a Jewishman, a Muslim, and an atheist, and though they had come from different backgrounds, they would embark on their final journey together, united by their acceptance of their own fallibility. The Christian had lived a life devoted to God, yet struggled with transgressions in his personal life. The Jewish man had lived a life true to his faith, but could not deny his own ego and material wants. The Muslim was devout, believing that he would meet his Maker, Allah. The atheist, meanwhile, was indifferent to religious texts and skeptical of their teachings. They all met their end in different ways, from a fiery night in a bar to a peaceful passing surrounded by loved ones. But the light had come for them all. Many humans believe that they must go towards the light, but in truth, it is the light that comes for them, whether they are ready or not. The light itself is a misnomer, for it is merely a flash that envelops the soul before plunging them into darkness. This is when the spirit must confront the truth of its existence and let go of the past life. Some spirits may take eons to accept that they are and that they know so very little of the nature of things. They will be broken down, screaming to God for guidance and light, but none will come. Finally, these spirits accept that they do not know, and it was wrong about everything it believed. And in that moment, a pinhole of light appears, and the spirit is enveloped once again. This time, it leads to the start of the passage of spirits. Though these four souls had had very little common in life, they shared one crucial trait. They all accepted their fallibility and the possibility that there was more to the story at the same time. It was this acceptance that would lead them down the final path together, hand in hand. For virtually all humans, this is the path they will walk. As the percentage that achieves the other path is so minuscule, it's not even worth a mention. And so the journey continues, as these souls, once so different, now united in their acceptance of the unknown, move towards their ultimate destination. The guide watches on, his wisdom and patience unyielding, knowing that this journey will be repeated countless times, until the last of them had been disposed. Verily, these four souls were cast out at the beginning of the passage of spirits, bereft of their mortal vessels, and only their essence remained. As they journeyed through this guided flow, they soon found themselves in unison with each other, their energies intermingling in a dance of sorts. And lo, they began to communicate, not with words or sounds, but with the very energy that coursed through them. One of them, an atheist, marveled at the wondrous phenomenon, exclaiming, "This is incredible! We can speak with our thoughts." But a deep, wise energy flowed forth to correct him, saying, "Silly spirit, thou hast always been capable of this. 'Twas thee who disconnected from the natural way. Thou hast ever sought to push beyond the bounds of what is ordained. In truth, I have often wondered why thy kind hath been granted so many chances." The Christian man among them, upon hearing this, cited Scripture, but he knew in his heart what the answer would be, and the Spirit guide did not disappoint him, laughing heartily and waving his energy about to indicate the passage they traveled upon. "Thy books," he scoffed, "thy feeble stories, written in thy own tongue, with thy own mind and hand, they are as limited as thy minds, little spirits. Not one of them was written from a place of truth." And though the four spirits knew this to be true, they could not help but feel a sense of despair as the spirit guide continued to enlighten them. "So there is no heaven?" the Christian asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Heaven? Hell? These are but human concepts, little spirit. The favorites of God? Nay, these are laughable. Thou art quick to cite the name of Jesus, but know that Dionysius, Mithra, and Horus all have the same story. The virgin birth, the resurrection, all rooted in stories that predate thy Jesus. It all springs from the same lack of knowledge." For a moment the four souls were struck silent by this revelation. The human race is but one of many low-level experiments. Thou were not placed upon the earth because thou wert chosen. Thou art part of a vast system. It boggles my mind that thou hast somehow managed thy way to the center of it. The Christian, in desperation, asked if they would be judged, but the spirit guide corrected him, saying, "Judged? Nay, you shall be disposed of. The human race was a failed experiment, and one that should not have been repeated 6 times, in my opinion. But I am but a lowly guide." And yet the Christian persisted, defending his fate and citing Jesus as a guide, but the spirit guide only shook his energy in amusement, saying, "Jesus, again with this. Know this, thy Jesus never existed. Thy Bible was written 200 years after his supposed death. It is largely based on the teachings of Peter, who never met Jesus. He started a cult that became popular because it allowed people to join without circumcision. Peter was crucifying people when Jesus was said to be alive. And then 80 some years later, Matthew wrote the first piece of hodgepodge that became thy Bible. 'Tis only when 80 or so years have passed that Matthew did pen the first part, and it wasn't until Matthew's writing, almost a century hence, when Jesus did show any miracles. Ere that, he was but a wise man. But make no mistake, this is a work of fiction, like all your tomes. Thou hast not even the first cornerstone of knowledge to stand upon, and lo, Thou cannot see all that is around thee. Thou mortals in this age have verily come up with new takes on the tale. Ye did take the first basic story of the sun in the sky, and ye did rewrite and rewrite. It was a pattern of storytelling designed to control the populace. Whether ye alter a small piece, like the Mormons, or make large changes, like the Muslims or Scientologists, the core is ever the same. The core is a made-up explanation of that which is unknown to humanity. And verily, thou must understand that there was never any true religion, only cults. They vary in size and the damage that they cause to thy evolution, but they are all cults. Religion is naught but mortals seeking to explain that which they cannot. Cults are not caused by religion, for all religion is merely cults. Your ideas never even came close, did they? The guide gestured toward the road before them. Thou art part of a system that is giving thy spirit one last opportunity to fall in line with the universe. Ye and all others on this road hath failed to do so. Thou hast no sense of balance with the universe, and most of thee didn't even know you were supposed to. Again, thy race excels at running away from the natural ways more than any other. There are many such life experiments around the cosmos. Humanity is clearly the worst. The percentage of souls to evolve here is close to 0.0002%. It's abysmal. The first 5 times they gathered all the energy again, and when ye had wiped yourself off the planet again, we would let the earth heal, and then we would give thee another chance. The 4 souls each took in this information in their own way, and the guide did the energy equivalent of an eye roll. Even now ye fail to see the scope. Only the atheist is close to understanding. Adnan believes he's in hell. The Christian is still trying to get Jesus back, laughed the guide. Why must we go on this road if we are not to be judged? Asked the Christian man. He inquired with utmost sincerity. Just part of the process, replied the guide, his voice carrying a hint of divine authority. The system is efficient. You are not merely walking down a path, you are being processed. They are sucking all the remaining good energy from you, and when you come to the end of this road, there will be nothing left of you except all the bitter and negative energy that sunk your whole race. The atheist, curious and skeptical, spoke up, hoping to learn more. Then we are gathered? He asked, but his voice was tinged with apprehension. No, not this time, replied the guide with a touch of relief in his tone. 2 times was plenty as far as I'm concerned. However, after 5 times failing so horribly, this is the 6th and final attempt of humanity. When you reach the end, you will be disposed of. As the spirits floated along, the weight of the guide's words settled heavy on them. They each contemplated the fate that awaited them, the truth sinking in with varying degrees of acceptance. After a few moments, hours, miles, the atheist asked another question. You said there was another path. How does one achieve that? You don't. None of you do, replied the guide, his voice firm and unwavering. Those who achieve enlightenment are hard-pressed to do so in your world. Those who accept the natural way and start learning how to talk to the system again. The guide continued. Honestly, when you were on Earth, did you not realize everything around you was speaking? The birds, the trees, the mushrooms. Everything was talking to the system except us. The atheist finished, understanding dawning on him. Exactly, affirmed the guide. In your world you never stood much of a chance. The 6th attempt of your race has really been its most feeble. This time around, greed has run over every good piece that human nature was given. As they moved on, the spirits began to feel the weight of their own negativity bearing down upon them. Bitterness and jealousy spread like wildfire. The guide stopped and let the spirits flow forward, watching them descend into chaos. He could sense their energies dissipating into nothingness. the only place in the universe where this happens. The guide morphed back to the beginning of the procession, slipping in among some of the newly awakened spirits, with all the same questions. This time, however, the guide remained silent, simply pushing them forward with a gentle nudge. His colleagues had often said, "Why explain? They're all going to the same place." On the fourth time back to the front of the passage of the spirits for his time, a brilliant light shot up into the sky. One of the other guides floated next to him, and together they watched a human spirit rise to the next level of control. "An ascension!" the guide bellowed, his voice echoing across the cosmos. The guide beside him looked up at the ascending spirit. "Surely they will be one of the very last." "Surely," replied the other guide, a note of solemnity in his voice.